Forward TV. The world is thinking.
Are we scared of children? I think people are perhaps a little bit more frightened than they used to be because we live in a rather fragmenting society. The extended families, which used to sort of be the dominant structure, don't exist anymore, or far fewer. And so the likelihood is the little old lady walking to the post office to pick up her pension and seeing a crowd of young people wearing hoodies hanging around outside. Perhaps 25 years ago, she'd have gone up to them and said, "Hello, Charlie, how are you?" And that would have been a friend of her grandson, if not her grandson herself. But that doesn't happen anymore. And equally, the people hanging around the post office would have no idea who this person was. After all, old people are either sort of smelly, slightly deranged, or possibly paedophiles. I mean, there is a real generational segregation in our society. It is a genuine problem, and I think it underpins, I think you were referring to this in a way, it does underpin the collapse in social capital, in the things that hold our society together, the glue, the community cohesion. And you have to then look at the way that translates, and I think it translates into a collapse in trust, which we've certainly seen since the 1950s, and the corollary of that, of course, is increased fear. So you've got societies where people don't know their neighbours as they used to, where they don't get on with other generations as they used to, and they're therefore more anxious. If you ask people what worries them, they are worried about strangers, they're worried about immigrants, they're worried about crime. It is very much we live in an age where people are frightened of people that they don't know, in places very often where they're more likely not to know people. And then they look to the state for answers. Some of my colleagues on this panel have already reflected this point. You know, I pay my taxes, and for that I want to be safe. I want to be free from fear. It's a kind of consumerist response. You know, I pay my money, I want my product, I want it back. And politicians have necessarily had to respond. So under the Labour government, we have had 50 acts of Parliament in respect of crime. It has absolutely dominated the legislative programme. Enormous amounts of activity. And this, actually, during a time when we've seen very significant reductions in the amount of crime from all the evidence that we have. We've seen the criminal age of responsibility lowered to 10, which is one of the lowest in the Western world. We lock up a higher proportion of our children in Britain than any other country in Europe, with the exception, I think, of Ukraine. Now, someone was reflecting on whether this is, you know, because people are behaving much worse, or whether we have become less tolerant. I think it is about a lack of tolerance of behaviour that might have been dismissed as mischief in the past. Now we demand something must be done. I've paid my taxes. Where are the police to sort this out? They don't look for a civic response. They look for a statutory one. And that's why we have ASBOs. It's why we have such widespread tagging. It's why we even have, believe it or not, mosquito sprays or their equivalent being used to shoo away children who are gathering around in shopping centres.